And 2 fences remaining.
It's getting a little bit faster here as we get towards the end, and
Got a little off
not
balance.
what you call a straight line.
No. But with that head of steam, she's well under time. Kurskina.
Now this is going to be interesting because this horse had quite a few stops with the Irish girl.
And Kurskina is not known for her riding.
Exactly. She's a very nervous rider, and she's improved a lot over the years, and has kept at it. She's not ever given up. And
yeah, you can see she has it written on her face.
that's partly from too scared to go back and face the coach if she doesn't get around.
I know her coach, and I would be afraid too.
But she's doing a nice job here.
Yeah. Oh,
That was a bit unfortunate there.
yeah, I got a little tight to that vertical. 2 fences, 7 and 8 remaining. Looks like Russia's going to have 2 rails. Again,
Wow.
we're inside the top 7 teams at only 24 seconds. So 2 rails means 14 points or 14 seconds. So they've given up 14, and they are 14 seconds more out than the 24. So that would be.
You're looking at
38.
Oh no, sorry, how many seconds? 14.
14, be 38.
Yeah, maybe I won't help you then.
Yeah, they moved from 24 seconds out to 38 seconds out of our leader, and that's assuming our leaders ride clean.
Going to go clear. So it's at the moment it's just bunching it all up a lot because Germany, who were in 10th, have moved up a little bit. Russia have moved down. So currently the teams that have ridden, the last 4 teams have become quite a bit closer as a result.
Oh, they're just piling them high and selling them cheap, as they say. They're bunching them up.
Yeah, it's going to make for an exciting combined anyway.
Absolutely.
But next we have the Americans.
Who are
and,
they?
Yeah, well,
The
two
Zaxxon sisters. That's the sister act, and they're both very talented. Margot the older, she'll be the first rider in the arena for the Team USA. Margot Zaxxon's 22 years old, out of Fayetteville, Arkansas, and she is, when I watched her ride, she got 4th in London. When I watched her round in London, I was very impressed, and I've told her that she rode in that arena. She drew a difficult horse that had gone around for only, 700 points under the old systems. We divide by 4, right? So,
yeah.
So about 150 in today's points. And she rode in like a pro. I was very, very impressed with her round in London in Greenwich Park. And so we'll see what she does here. She's up on Czardziszka. And how did he go in the first round? Oh, Guatemala.
Yeah, but that was one of the disaster rounds. But like we said, the
This is a horse that didn't get around at all. So
let's see. But the Guatemalan athlete was looking very, very nervous and quite novice on this horse. So they might have redrawn. We've got a bit of a delay here, so that could.
Let's listen and see who she's on. And there's no question Margot has incredible amounts of experience.
So yeah, I think we've got a little break, and that's probably the Americans might well have chosen to draw a reserve horse, but we just have to wait and see.
I think that's exactly right. And don't forget who the Americans' coach is. The head coach of Team USA is Janusz Paychek. He's a legend here. You can see his photograph and his statue on the complex here at AVOF, which is the Olympic Training Center and Sports School. Janusz is an Olympic champion from 1976 in Montreal, and he's been the head coach of Team USA for quite some time. And he is back in his home stomping grounds. I actually was able to, he pointed out his elementary school to me yesterday, and the church where he went to school as a kid, and even the house he lived in as a child.
So what's his connection to the States then?
His connection, well, let's see. He came to us in 1985. He just enjoyed training in San Antonio, Texas, which is where we were headquartered up until 1997. And when he retired, which was 85, frankly, he wanted to stay in the sport. He was looking for a coaching job, and the coaching position at the United States was open. And who could argue with his credentials? Multi-time world champion. I think he finished in the top 2 at least 5 times, either a gold or silver medalist at 5 world championships, in addition to being Olympic champion. So Janusz is quite the athlete.
So now it looks like you're just going to picture of us for a little while.
Oh yeah.
That's
that was a good move on the part of the producers, whoever's riding that TriCaster and switching cameras.
We'll go for a few guys in hoodies instead.
That's right. It's probably
Coach is probably having a cigarette out there.
They would be former Eastern European coaches.
And we know about those. Coming from the British squad, I know about Eastern European coaches as well.
You certainly do. I'm waiting for the British to actually get a British coach.
Yeah, I think we've been waiting a while.
And who am I to throw stones in a glass house? We have Polish and Lithuanian are our two primary coaches, but we do have an assistant who's British. I mean, I'm sorry. Did I say British?
Well,
American.
We have a very big team, and a lot of the team are British. So,
I gotcha.
And that's what's changed over the years, is the way that the team has grown. So the support team has significantly grown as the funding has improved, and also the realisation for the need for all these support staff to come along with the team.
Thank God for the UK lottery. Tell you what.
Certainly, I have to thank that as well, and as do all of our support staff out here for their jobs and getting this great opportunity.
It's interesting how pentathlon is funded around the world. I mean, you have everything from personal funding, literally athletes funding themselves out of their own pockets, to state-supported funding, ministries of sport, governments funding. Like the Russians are a great example of that. And as a former Soviet nations, satellite countries have evolved into the free market economy. You've gotten a lot of sponsorship. I mean, they pull in 7 figures on their sponsorships when they host major events. So, in addition to their government funding, the United States is not funded by the government, but we are supported by our U.S. Olympic Committee as well as sponsorship. And frankly, the younger kids, I mean, it takes a village, right? I mean, the parents and the families have to, certainly at the young ages, they have to get behind the athletes. So it is an interesting, there is not a one-size-fits-all in terms of the funding models worldwide.
I think also we've seen, maybe it's a result of the funding that athletes don't need to have a job, but we've seen more athletes studying whilst training, which I think is great. That they're realising that pentathlon isn't a career for life, and you need something beyond it. And any sport, when you're spending so many hours training, it's easy to forget that actually you've got to look and prepare yourself for something beyond it. And I think now there's a lot of athletes who are using study to help complement their training as well.
It's extraordinary, actually, how many professionals that we have coming out of the pentathlon ranks worldwide. I mean, you have any number of attorneys, physicians. I mean, my brother's a great example. He's a surgeon, and he did medical school while he was a pentathlete. You have, some very successful businessmen. And it's been interesting as the former Soviet Union opened up 20 years ago. A lot of the athletes from my time were able to build very successful businesses as the opportunities presented themselves. So it has been an exciting, and I always say as goes pentathlon, goes the Olympic movement. And I'm one of the guys who drank the Kool-Aid. I believe in the Olympic movement, believe in the Olympic values, and I think it's a great way to educate your kids. It's a great lifestyle to grow up in, and the sport has a lot to offer society, actually. So we definitely have a delay, and I'm sure it's related to the switching horses for the Zaxxon sisters, and they actually are a lot of fun to coach. I watch. My day job is managing the U.S. program, but we have head coach, Janusz being our head coach, and Gennady Sokolovas, our high performance director, working on a day-to-day basis with these athletes. And we've seen Margot, who literally grow up in the sport. She showed up at the training center at age 15. Here she is at the ripe old age of 22 and already competed in 2 Olympics. So it's exciting. And the sisters could not be more different. That's also one of the...
Well, I can't say I know Isabella, I know Margot, but that probably explains quite a lot about their characteristics as well.
Absolutely. You've got one of them is extraordinarily outgoing. The other
now, it looks as though we have actually swapped, and I think they must have given the USA team a little bit longer to get used to their horses and to sort out who they're riding. So we've now, in the arena, we've got Samantha Murray on Iccar and Alice Fitton on Brava, who are just saluting before entering the box.
And Samantha Murray, the Olympic silver medalist from the London Games. She'll be the first off for Great Britain. And Heather, why don't you take this? She's your teammate.
Yeah, now Sam has ridden from a young age and has had to perfect her riding towards show jumping since she started pentathlon, and has improved a great deal. I mean, we as a nation are strong in the riding, but we still are never blasé, and we've got some very good instructors and some good horses, and there's quite a lot of effort, especially as it comes to the end of the season and the big competitions. They'll have been on doing intense riding, and
It's got a challenge there.
now Sam's just having a little problem there, and I'm not sure quite what's going on. She needs a bit more leg, holding it very tightly, but it's hard to see from here exactly what's happening. She now looks a little bit out of control.
Little handsy. It would be very interesting to see what had happened in the warm-up arena with her.
Yes, because it looked like she wasn't that surprised, but she's now really losing control there, which is
She's off to the races.
losing these vital points for Great Britain, because they had a magnificent swim and really jumped up the leaderboard into 5th overall, and now Sam is having an absolute nightmare of a ride.
She's collecting herself, trying to get going again.
There's one thing that you can see, she's now an experienced athlete. She's not panicking. Yes, she's having a
Right.
nightmare out there, but you don't know in pentathlon, it's not over until it's over, and she's still collecting herself, getting ready for the next fence, and also giving Alice, her teammate, that opportunity to ride. She's just got to clear that last
Another
fence.
run out. But she is an Olympic silver medalist, and what comes with that is no question a great deal of confidence, a great deal of experience.
And interesting, we saw this horse go earlier, and
And
not
she's-
under there was under more
that's
control, so
unfortunate. She's had elimination.
and that's really sad as well for Alice Fitton. It's her first senior world championship competition, and very sadly she doesn't get to ride in this event now, as Great Britain have been disqualified and not finished their first round.
So it's anybody's guess as to who the next team is going to be, whether we're going to have the United States, who's clearly now out of order, and certainly it's due to switching horses, or whether we'll have Korea entering the arena. An unfortunate ride there for
You can
Great
just see the
Britain.
performance director there. He's going to have a few words to say about that, I'm sure, but it'll be interesting to know. It's very hard to judge, and the coach there, Ishvan, just talking to Sam as she gets off the horse. But yeah, very disappointed for Great Britain. I mean, they came here, Samantha did say she's using this event as a warm-up event, but Alice, it's her very first Senior World Championships, and just to get to compete is a great experience, and she would have learned a lot, and she will still have, but having missed out on that ride will be quite devastating for her.
Well, we have Korea in the arena now. So the athletes from Korea, Sujin Yang, she's up on Gubernator. She's our first rider in for Korea. Her teammate, Minji Choi, she's riding Quicksilver. We've got to love that name. So Yang on Gubernators over the first fence.
Now these two horses went really nicely. It's the same horses that the Hungarian team rode earlier, and they, I think, were probably one of the nicest rounds we've seen. So it'll be interesting to see if the Koreans can make it look as nice as the Hungarians did.
The Koreans have poured money into their pentathlon program since the 1988 Olympics in Seoul, Korea. They've come a long way. They used to be where you put a Korean on a horse and you would bet against them. But they have really come along.
In the women's event, you didn't see Koreans in the final very often, so it was very unusual to actually see them riding.
And she's clean. She's got a clean first round. Her teammate, Minji Choi, up on Quicksilver over the first fence.
And the Korean team are now before this round, we're in 4th place, and with Great Britain were hot on their heels, so that would have given them quite a bit of breathing space with Britain losing all those points and being out of the running order now. But this could be a very important ride.
I tell you, Korea is clean as a team, and they look like they're well under the time allowed.
She just gave that horse an extra couple of taps on the shoulder, who's backing off a little bit, and it's very well judged.
Yeah.
Just the final 2 fences to go. The home line. Can she keep this?
The clubhouse turn, as we say. And she's clean. And Korea, I believe that's our first clear round of all the teams.
I think it is, and being in 4th position with we've still got to see what America can do, but they can't. The American team, who haven't been in yet, will not be able to overtake the Korean team, as they've got 4 points. But that just leaves 3 teams ahead of them, and any mistakes, I think you could see Korea taking the lead.
And I tell you, the fact the Americans have not entered the arena as yet is not a good sign. It means that the switch was made fairly late. So there may have been some real significant problems in the warm-up arena. So our next team in the arena is going to be the Italians.
We're guessing, unless
we're
they
guessing,
suddenly bring America in.
Yeah, that's true.
And the Italians are having a storming day so far. I mean, they have a brilliant fence, and I think they were both very surprised and pleased with that. And they're still holding, yeah, exactly, and they're still holding third position at the moment. So, you know, it's all to play for them.
First rider in the arena for Italy, Lavinia Bonesio. She's on Kakan, and Italy's only 10 seconds out of the lead coming into this event. You gotta love those Italian uniforms. The blue is Carabinieri, that's the Italian police, and on course now, Bonesio is wearing a military uniform.
And again, we saw these two horses the same that the German pairing rode, and the Germans had a very nice round as well, so this could be playing into the Italians' favour.
Interesting, though, the Italian school of riding and the German school are quite different. So to see Italians tend to ride much more forward, Germans have a much deeper seat. She's got quiet hands.
Lucky on that pole, just a little rustle, but
little rub.
A few people have taken that. I think it's that related distance, just showing it's a little bit short, and the horses are brushing it with their front feet.
And she's got the clubhouse turn, and even, I'll tell you, she's lucky on several points there. Nearly pulled the 8th fence with her with the hind legs. And so we have on course Camilla Lontano from Italy. And again, she's wearing that uniform of the Carabinieri.
Wow, and she's not wasting any time here, and if she's not careful, it's going to get her in trouble, but so far, so good.
Carabinieri in Italy, a big supporter of pentathlon, has been for decades. 2 fences remaining. We may have another clear round.
This is going to put the pressure on the final 2 teams to ride if this
and
with just clean. 1 fence.
And she's clean.
Wow.
A little on the neck, but
yeah, no points for style, but we're not marked on style in pentathlon. Just took a few flower pots out with her at the end, but she'd finished into the box, so they'll be happy with that.
She'll take it. She'll definitely take it. Well, we have 3 teams remaining in today's riding women's relay event. And again, we're waiting to see where they're going to put the Americans. They may just have them ride last.
It would make sense now to keep the order and put them in after these next 2 teams.
So we have left to go Belarus, China, and the United States. Belarus just had a tremendous fence this morning. It really came out strong. Anastasia Prokopenko, her teammate, Katasanya Aurol. I loved her fencing this morning. Aurol is on the end of a French grip. She's a tall girl, and she always knew where her point was. I mean, it was classic.
I think she's beautiful. Also, a lot of the athletes won't have fenced her before. She's relatively new to the senior scene, and also has that element of surprise that she'll be able to take the other athletes by and use that to her advantage.
And it is Belarus entering the arena, so the team of Anastasia Prokopenko, Katarina Aurol, her teammates, and their horses. You've got Prokopenko, a first rider on. She'll be up on Poseidon, and Aurol will be on Calypso. Again, I love those names, Poseidon and Calypso. They have that maritime, Belarus only 3 seconds off the lead coming into this event, 3 points. So this is absolutely critical for them to have a good round.
And they, as much as they probably didn't watch the previous 2 rounds, they'll be aware that the teams right on their heels will have had good rounds, and they basically cannot afford to have a single pole down.
That's right. This is all about the medals at this point. She's got her hands high, and she's a little handsy, but she's managing it well.
Prokopenko is a very experienced pentathlon rider, but is not from an original riding background, so she's learned to ride pentathlon horses and to adapt. But
she pulls a rail there on 6, red and white.
You can see that she doesn't quite have that seat that some of the riders have, and
there's a knack for riding pentathlon, and she's clean on 8. So she pulled 1 rail, which costs 7 points or 7 seconds, which will matter. Aurol over fence number 1, clean. She needs to make up for her teammate's rail. She really needs to go clean.
And this horse, Calypso, did actually take 2 poles in the previous round, so she'll be hoping that she doesn't have to suffer the same fate that the previous rider did on this horse, because those 2 points, as you said, that would actually equal 14 seconds in the running and would make a considerable difference with it as tight as it is at the top.
Absolutely. 14 seconds is about as long as it takes to shoot one series. She's got 2 fences remaining out of her 8. See if she goes clean. Clear on 7 and clear on 8. So the Belarus has 1 rail down, costing them 7 points for a knockdown, keeping them in the hunt for the medals.
It's interesting to see how, as the second round, the same horses are being used, but we're seeing even better rounds than we did in the first. And I think not only are the horses slightly calmer and they've seen the course, but also on the whole, it tends to be the athletes that are more experienced have done better in the running and the swimming, and the fencing, and as a result end up in the second round. So it's a combination of both things that really make the riding seem more effortless and nicer to watch, I would say.
Absolutely. Top riders, the top athletes tend to be the top riders, and so it's not surprising, actually.
Exactly. So that leaves us with just 2 teams to go, and we've gone slightly out of order now. We've got China coming in next, who are leading the event so far after the swimming and the fencing this morning, and then after that we're going to have America slotting back in after a little change in the draw that we've had this morning.
Well, we have great hopes, of course, for the United States with the Isaacson sisters, but honestly, if I had to be a betting man, I'd probably put my money on China at this point. They have such a strong team. Qian Chen, Wangsha Liang, both athletes for China have won World Cup events. Extraordinary. China's program, again, has just come on so strong since the Beijing Games of 2008. So you have Qian Chen, first rider in for China. She's riding Guardiana.
And one of the events that really seen the Chinese improvement is their riding. I mean, we used to, at junior level, you had the Chinese ahead of you before the ride, you would normally feel fairly relaxed that they would soon be behind you after the riding event, and that's certainly no more. You can't bank on that anymore, and Chen is giving a good example of how the Chinese riding has improved over these last 8 years.
Yeah, she looks good, and she's not a particularly tall athlete. She's built more like a jockey. She bumps, she rubs number 6, stays up, got the horse well in hand, 2 jumps remaining. China's coming off of a tremendous youth Olympic Games, which were just held in Nanjing, and the world was watching. Their sports programs are just incredible.
Well, they've certainly got the numbers to play with for the athletes, and sport is a big thing out there. Yeah, sport is a big thing out there, and thinking of that many athletes trying to get to these few positions that are available to compete at a World Championships, and you've got enough drive amongst the team.
They only have 1 billion people, so. You have Wangsha Liang, and again, I've had the pleasure of speaking with both these talented athletes, and they're not, in addition to being great athletes, they're also really great people. I really enjoy spending time with them. So there's 2 jumps remaining for China, and they're going to, not that this is necessarily a lock, but they're going to definitely cement their position as the leaders. 1 fence remaining, and China's gone clean.
And you can hear the excitement from their supporters out there, and they know that with that strong combine behind them, that they have to put themselves in prime position.
And there's nothing the Americans can do to overtake the leaders. The best thing they can do is put themselves in position to make a run for the roses in the combine, and hopefully be in a position to get on the podium. So we have 1 team remaining. We have the United States, the team of the Margot and Isabella Isaacson. Yes, they are sisters, and we're going to wait for them to enter the arena as our final ride. And they're riding a little out of order simply because of a horse change. And we'll get more information about that as the day progresses. All in all, it's been a nice, really a nice day at the races here for the pentathlon program. This course designed by Andrzej Żugewski it has its share of challenges, but it's not overly difficult.
I think it's been a perfect course. We've seen some stops, some knockdowns, and some clears, and that's a really good balance, because if everybody's going clear, the riding is irrelevant and makes no difference. But then if you've got everyone having nightmares left, right and centre, that's not great viewing, it's not good for the athletes, the horses or the sport generally. So it's really tricky to get that balance, and I think that today it's just perfect, and it's also difficult for the course builder to know the standard of the horses.
Well, what makes a good course designer is a guy who knows the horses, who knows the riders, and you know, from my days as working jump crew back in Texas, the great course designers would try to have as many clean rounds as they had rounds with great difficulty. So if you had 2 clean rounds, you'd have 2 horses on the bottom that really had serious problems. And that's pretty much what we've seen today.
Now this is interesting.
Have they withdrawn?
We haven't been given any information here, but it's slightly worrying that the riding event seems to be finished.
It does seem to be finished. That means the Americans have withdrawn. That's news to me.
Well, we'll surely discuss that when we come to the combined event later.
It's going to shake up to be one very, very exciting and interesting combined. Stay tuned. We'll be back in a few minutes. Let's go find out.